Are nuclear power plants safe to live next to? I'm Allison Warnerowski with the W Real Estate Group here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we get quite a few questions from clients about the nuclear power plant that's southwest of Raleigh. Well, I've got the inside info from an engineer at a local power company, and I'm here to explain nuclear power plants that should hopefully address concerns that prospective homebuyers may have. Let's first define nuclear power plants. We all know they generate the electricity we rely on for just about everything we do. They're a process called nuclear fission, and it has become one of our most reliable and clean sources of power generation. Emissions-wise, nuclear has an incredibly small carbon footprint, as it really does not emit greenhouse gases. And its only real waste are the old fuel rods that are stored at a special facility in Nevada. So nuclear is clean and has minimal waste generated. But why are so many people hesitant to live around them? Well, we've all heard the horror stories about 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and most recently, Fukushima. Chernobyl by far had the greatest fallout, where the explosion occurred, leading to radiation leaking into the atmosphere. Nuclear radiation is invisible. It contaminates air, water, and other objects that we interact with every day. And the radiation impacts from Chernobyl extended up to 20 miles from the site over time as the contaminated air molecules traveled with the wind. Most that were impacted experienced long-term health impacts, as the fatal exposures were mostly due to those that were at the plant site during the incident. So now I've probably scared you, but after talking with the engineer with our local power company, let me tell you why I wouldn't personally hesitate to have my family live near a nuclear power plant. Nuclear power plants have been around for nearly 70 years, and with 436 total nuclear power plants currently in operation worldwide, we've only had this small handful of incidents. Because of those incidents, though, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has created incredibly stringent operation and maintenance requirements to essentially eliminate the risk of public impacting events. They have backups for their backups, and imagine the most robust processes and procedures that you can, and then multiply that by 10. They have their act together. But even with that, the NRC requires extremely robust emergency plans to contain any contamination leak. And for the public, an approximate 10-mile radius around a nuclear power plant is divided into different emergency planning zones, which provide direction to residents in those areas in the event of an emergency. Note that those within these zones may hear a quarterly test of the emergency sirens, which are planned and communicated in advance. For the Raleigh area, you'll see that this impacts mostly the western areas of Apex, Holly Springs, and some of Fuquay-Varina. So nuclear plants are about as regulated as it gets, and these procedures have worked for years without incident. Nuclear plants are also just as stringent in protecting from outside impacts. They essentially each have their own military to protect from any terrorist attack, as the security at these sites are incredibly robust. And the plant itself is designed to protect against extreme weather like tornadoes and flooding, especially after Fukushima's impacts from the tsunami. The reactor itself, where the nuclear reaction takes place, is encased by a 4 to 5 foot thick, reinforced concrete dome that can withstand direct impacts from a commercial airplane as well as projectiles from tornadoes. I've also heard concerns about more latent impacts like contaminated groundwater and air. It's incredibly rare that groundwater could be contaminated from the nuclear process, as it would take a containment breach for that to happen and would be immediately contained. The few incidents that have occurred in the past were all contained to the plant site itself, with no impacts to the groundwater. If there were widespread impacts to groundwater, that would be treated as an emergency. But I am not aware of any events like this occurring. And what about the smoke coming out of the large cooling tower? That is just steam. This water is pulled from a nearby water source like a lake, used to cool off the nuclear plant water in its own separate loop of pipes, and then cooled off in the cooling tower, thus releasing the steam that rises out of it. This water then returns to the lake and new, cooler water is pulled in. So while many people joke that you'll find fish with 2 heads in the lakes by the nuclear power plants, it's merely just a joke. But with the warm water, the fishing is usually really good. According to FEMA, roughly 8% of the country's population lives within 20 miles of a nuclear power plant, with just under 2% living within the 10-mile emergency planning zone. So a large number of Americans live close to these plants without incident. important. But overall, you have to make the right choice for your family. Given the information I know, while I would prefer to not live literally right next to one, I would certainly not hesitate to live within the 10-mile emergency planning zone. We would love to hear more from you about this topic in the comments. Look out for our next video talking about power lines and substations. And if you have any real estate needs in the greater Raleigh area, we would love to help you. I'm Alice Warnerowski with the W Real Estate Group, and thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.